So I wanted to talk about these JFK files. This is a really wild situation, you guys. In 1992, that is before I was born, the JFK Act passed, which essentially said that documents pertaining to his assassination would be made public. It is now 2021, and the Biden administration has once again delayed the release of those files. And obviously, this is just my opinion, but I obviously think something is incredibly suspicious about the story we were told about JFK. I do not think that we were told the whole story. I do think it's incredibly and overwhelmingly likely that the intelligence community was involved in assassinating JFK. It's just there's too much circumstantial evidence pointing in that direction. So that they refuse to release these files would seem to indicate that that's probably the case, right? Why else wouldn't they? If it just confirmed that that it was a one-man situation, which is what the official reports found. If that was confirmed by these files, they'd release them, right? I mean, it's just it certainly emboldens the conspiracy theories surrounding JFK's assassination. I'll put it that way. So this is in CBS News. White House delays release of JFK assassination files, quote, to protect against identifiable harm, end quote. The White House said Friday it would delay the release of long classified documents related to the assassination of former President John F. Kennedy. President Joe Biden wrote in a statement that the remaining files, quote, shall be withheld from full public disclosure until December 15th of next year, nearly 60 years after Kennedy's assassination in Dallas, Texas in 1963. In 2017, former President Donald Trump released several thousand secret files on the assassination, but withheld others on national security grounds. The White House said the National Archivist needs more time for a review into that redaction, which was slowed by the pandemic. I don't understand that one bit. We're 60 years into this. You need more time? Give me a fucking break. That is such a ridiculous excuse. Mr. Biden also said the delay was necessary to protect against identifiable harm to the military, defense, intelligence operations, law enforcement, or the conduct of foreign relations, and that this outweighs the public interest in immediate disclosure. Unreal. The assassination of the 46-year-old president was a profound national tragedy that continues to resonate in American history and in the memories of so many Americans who were alive on that terrible day, the statement said. A 10-month investigation led by then Supreme Court Chief Justice Earl Warren concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald, a former Marine who had lived in the Soviet Union, they have to throw that in there, right? Acted alone when he fired on Kennedy's motorcade. But the commission's investigation was criticized for being incomplete, with a congressional committee later concluding that Kennedy was probably assassinated as a result of a conspiracy. So even a congressional committee found this, you guys. It's entirely unbelievable that this was a solo act. It just is. And it never ceases to amaze me that the press will throw in the who used to be in the Soviet Union. Like, what does that have to do with anything outside of your attempt to, engage in baiting people into fearing Russia? This is McCarthyism that we are still dealing with in 2021, and the media routinely engages in this, right? It's such a contrast to, this is just a total side note, but do you guys remember I don't remember which year it was, but one of the years Obama ran, it was against Romney, so that would have been 2012. He said to Romney on the debate stage, he said, the 1980s called, they want their foreign policy back. And that was because Romney had engaged in McCarthyism. How quickly it went from that in 2012 to Russia being basically the Democrats' entire fucking messaging strategy, right? It's absolutely hilarious. But anyhow, this is, like I said, this emboldens the idea that we did not ever know the real truth about JFK's assassination. And I think that's quite obvious. We all know the intelligence community engages in things that are unpalatable, to say the least. And we all know that they cover that up, and they're given a particular authority to do so under the guise of national security. So they basically get to redact and censor things that otherwise would be part of these releases. So, and they mentioned there that Trump's administration had released some of them, but the point is that they also redacted a bunch of them. So that's not really a release, right? You clearly released what you thought was acceptable and held back anything that might have actually harmed the image of the intelligence community or the country. And it's a real shame. it both confirms that the powers that be in this situation are clearly lying and were clearly involved. I mean, just think about that, you guys. The intelligence community involved in assassinating a sitting president. Like, just think about the implication of that. It's insane. It's really insane. So that in and of itself is a shame that we have this situation where the deep state effectively can do what the hell they want, and there's no even perceived democratic pressure on them. And the other shame is, quite frankly, this will also embolden like totally nuts conspiracy stuff, right? Like anytime that you refuse to be transparent, you basically confirm to anybody whose initial tendency is to be skeptical of everything. You basically confirm to them, it's all some conspiracy. It's all some, right? And like I just said, I very much think that there are lies involved here. And I do think there's a conspiracy involved here. But there are also plenty of conspiracies that are just wacko, totally detached from reality. And when you continually behave like this, you build up that institutional distrust that makes people start from that place that allows them to build into these conspiracy theories. So like they're basically harming narratives and our political rhetoric in every way possible. The discourse is being harmed on both sides by this lack of transparency, if that makes any sense at all. I worded that very weird. But I think you guys get what I'm saying, right? They're both building up the conspiratorial nonsense and also proving that some of that distrust is coming from a very real and organic and understandable and reasonable place. So it's an absolute shame. And there are a number of these, you guys. Like I'm far from a fucking truther, but I do not think the 9/11 Commission gave us an honest answer about what happened on 9/11, right? I think there's some incredibly fishy things about the report that we got on what happened on September 11th. So like there's a number of these where you let these crazy theories spiral out of control, and you kind of throw gasoline on them by refusing to engage in any form of transparency at all, and by admitting that you are actually engaged in all this nefarious shit, right? But crazy that we're 60 years or almost 60 years since he was assassinated, and we are almost 30 years since the law passed, the JFK Act passed, that demanded that this be revealed, and it still has not been. It's what do you say about it? And then and also just, this should go without saying, they say it's going to be released in next December. I mean, if you believe that, gullible's written on the ceiling, right? They'll just come out with a statement in December. No, we haven't had enough time to review yet. The archivist needs more time. Some bullshit, right? 60 years, not quite long enough. Maybe we'll have it ready in 70 years. Takes a long time. Insane. Who's believing that? Like, they couldn't even come up with a better lie. They couldn't even come up with a better excuse. It's kind of pathetic and pitiful, isn't it? Unbelievable. So I do want to talk